Hello everybody, it's Wyron here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing on the Stir River, playing as Empire against the High Elves, and in this matchup I made some very questionable choices in retrospect. The first and foremost problem is that my opponent is actually not, I guess, High Elves, he's Nagarythe. And I didn't really read the description, I just looked at the flag and I'm like, oh, Nagarythe. I don't even know, I thought it was Nagarythe. I thought it was Dark Elves, and it was only when I loaded up into the game that I see archers, and I'm like, wait a second, Dark Elves don't have archers. Oh, it's Nagarythe. So, either way, the scout was essentially built to counter Dark Elves, but even then, it's a little questionable. I did bring a steam tank because I wanted to see how it was with the buffs, and I figured, you know, against a lot of the Dark Elf infantry, now granted, Dark Shards could tear out a new one, and I don't debate that, but I think that against a lot of the Dark Elf infantry, the steam tank could hold up really well. The Black Arc Corsairs, the Witch Elves, the Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, all that sort of stuff. I think the steam tank could do really well against, and with its cannon, it can help shut down units like Hellebron, because I actually assumed this was, because like I said, I thought this was against the Dark Elves. I figured that they're going to bring Hellebron, because I thought it was Nagarythe. And so a lot of the choices here were based on that. My army comp, it's, for my lord, I did bring Boris Todbringer on a horse. Nothing fancy there, standard fare, Crush the Weak, White Cloak, Midland and Runefang, so the usual gear. Bright Wizard on a horse as well, coming in with the Burning Bolts to destroy heavily armored infantry. This is good against, honestly, anybody. I also did bring Flaming Sword of Ruin, figuring once again that we'd be seeing Hellebron. And I figured I can drop this on my handguns to give them all magic damage and fire damage, and they will absolutely tear her a new one, especially if she's mounted on a on her wagon. And once again, they didn't bring Hellebron, so because it's not Dark Elves, but whatever. Cascading Fire Cloak, defensive spell, cheap, dirt cheap, and of course Kindle Flame just to synchronize really well with Flaming Sword of Ruin. Front line is composed of a mix of spears, Sigmar's Sons in the back. Of course, the steam tank is kind of a frontline trooper. And then, because I knew once again that the Dark Shards are a danger, I decided to bring an Empire Captain to interdict 2 Demigryph Knights to provide additional anti-large support in the back. Of course, Demigryph Knights with halberds providing good enough performance against any Dark Elf cav, and obviously in this situation against High Elf cav. So, Dark anti-Hellebron build, really. And in this fight, we'll see how they do against High Elves. For my opponent, he vanguards some Reavers here. It's a pretty common strat, and honestly, I should have swept the woods behind me, and I don't, and it doesn't really bite me in the butt, but something that I messed up on. For my opponent's build, he does have some spearmen. He's got a pretty elite infantry force. He does have some spearmen in here, 3 units of them. But he does have silver helms. But more importantly, he does have 2 Phoenix Guard and 2 Swordmasters of Hoeth. So a pretty significant infantry component. A front line of archers, which can obviously outshoot Empire shooting pretty decisively, especially with the backing of the Princess, who is providing +10 reload skill and does have volley of arrows and some shooting of her own. My opponent also did bring a Mage of Life. Interestingly enough, with all of his spells, perhaps my opponent was new or just didn't know what he wanted to do exactly, but really, you don't need all your spells. Normally with Lord of Life, you just want to take Earthblood and Regrowth. Maybe one of these other spells, but really that's it. No, surprisingly, no Book of Hoeth or no Starwood Staff, so he's not going to be getting much Winds of Magic. Definitely not compared to, say, my Bright Wizard with his Power Stone. And I actually did bring the Empire Wizard's got a new ability, the Blast, but I don't actually think I used it in this game. I think I forgot about it as well, so bit of a some misplays on my part. Spoilers, I guess. But immediately I do start pushing forward. It's not my intent to sit back in camp. I see that my opponent's deployed himself here, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to push in. I'm going to start peppering him down. So you can see we do push forward. I'm maneuvering my steam tank into position from which he's going to fire, from which he's going to use that big long-range gun. And my opponent sees this and immediately starts falling back into the woods. Obviously, that doesn't make me happy, but what can you do? You can see I'm positioning my Demigryphs over here on the flank. I'm keeping another unit here in the reserve ready to intercept, and I actually push my Empire Captain all the way out on the flank to be ready to pressure these archers. So trying to kind of get a development going, and you can see we'll fast forward. You can see this steam tank does get a shot in here, trying to chip away at my opponent's troops. I don't even think it connects. There's a lot of trees here, so the steam tank will struggle. But we are pushing forward. You can see the steam tank fires another shot in there. Once again, I don't think it's really doing very much. It tries. He's trying his little heart out. But my opponent's camping in the back of the trees here. So you can see the Swordmasters there take a meaty hit. And this is why you don't want to box up against steam tanks. They just lost 11 models on a unit where you can't, for the High Elves, obviously you can't bring models back from the dead. So losing 11 models for a single cannonball is brutal. Bad misplay on my opponent's part. But, you know, kind of lucky for me as well because we are shooting through a whole bunch of trees. You can see the steam tank just whiffing. It's not exactly the most accurate piece. You can see I'm using my Empire Captain as a bit of a scout. He's not bad for this, but honestly I should have used Boris instead because Boris has healing. The Empire Captain does not. So he's just doing some scouting runs here, trying to spot for the steam tank and give it an opportunity to shoot. Anytime Demigryphs are staying back, I don't want to commit them just yet. I'm slowly but surely just worming my way forward, juking these shots, using the woods to my advantage, using the Empire Captain to spot. And unfortunately, you can't see too well in the woods. So I can see the archers who are shooting. I can occasionally spot you. I shoot the princess here with the cannonball. But it's tough stuff. The Empire Captain isn't really able to get much visuals, actually. All of this stuff was hidden from my view. I couldn't do anything to spot it. My opponent's just zoning me with spears really well. So good play from him. Tough luck for me. You can see the steam tank just firing away, chipping off HP, but really not getting too much done. And the steam tank, of course, let it sit. Obviously, you always want to get your vigor back if you can. Now, one of the advantages of box formation, especially for archers, is that they pivot faster. But I don't think that was my opponent's goal here. You can see that I do turn the steam tank. I'm trying to get shots into the Phoenix Guard. And I do start pulling the Demigryphs forward. So it's a bit of a posture game here. You can see I start pulling my army forward, pushing my infantry forward. You can see some shooting comes in on my poor captain, who was just juking around. The steam tank, in the meantime, does return fire. It's trying its whole heart out. It's not really able to hit much, and both of us are being very cautious. But my opponent is just camping in the woods here, which is something I don't really appreciate. But what can you do? You can see I do use the Demigryph Knights here to kind of harass. You can see the Silver Helms take a hit from a cannonball, losing 3 models. But battle still isn't starting, and we're already over half the battle's over, and the losses have been minimal on either side. A little bit of damage on the princess, a few kills on the swordmasters, but that's about it. My opponent finally does get my Sigmar Sons in range, starts shooting a little bit, and so what I decided to do is, you know what, we're going ham, we're going to charge. And so shortly thereafter, we're going to start moving. You can see the steam tank that are taking huge fire from the archers. It shrugs it off. Honestly, a steam tank that's fresh, with 160 armor and decent HP and a fairly small hitbox, this is one of its few advantages as a monsters unit. It's basically invulnerable to these arrows. Like, that was a volley from 4 units, or 3 units of archers and a princess. It did almost nothing. Over here, the Lyrian Reavers are slowly but surely sneaking their way around, but you can see the Demigryphs now positioning to make a charge through the woods. And over here, you can see I'm trying to get a little greedy, trying to bait out a few shots and get my handguns going. I start whittling down these annoying Phoenix Guard. I need to get the handguns into position on a flank. I've got the Empire Captain here to protect them, and I do now charge Boris in, and you can see we're going to do a bit of a charge here straight into the woods. You can see the steam tank here just charging in. Its armored prow just reflecting arrow shots, just riddled with arrows, and it's piling in. It's going whole ham there. You can see the Phoenix Guard here are all encircling Boris, and you might be wondering why I'd throw Boris so callously into the fray here, but it's because the Flaming Sword of Ruin is going down, and that means there's going to be monstrous boost to these guys' damage. They're up to 20 missile damage. They've got magic damage bypassing the Phoenix Guard's physical resist, and there's Kindle Flame active. So these guys are vulnerable to magic, fire for a little bit, and now Burning Bolts are coming down. Overcast variant. So with a blob like this is why you never want to blob. You can see just how much damage that is immediately doing, and of course Boris here shrugging it off. He doesn't care, but these guys certainly do care, and they're just getting annihilated. The steam tank in the meantime does drive straight through. It will take damage to the Phoenix Guard, but honestly, steam tanks aren't that vulnerable. Steam tanks are vulnerable to some use. Actually, I did use the fireball. I forgot about it, but I killed these Phoenix Guards, so great job there for the tank, or for the wizard. You can see he's back here harassing the caster. So the fight is kicking off in earnest. Over here, my opponent does catch my Demigryphs between Silver Helms and Spearmen. A bit of a problem for me, but you can see my infantry is now on full advance mode. Over here, Boris just holding his own while the Phoenix Guard gets shredded by the handgun fire from behind. My opponent is not able to make use of his archers because the steam tank is on top of them. You can see the Demigryphs are about to get a pincer on these Silver Helms, and they're just going to get buckled incredibly quickly. Honestly, even without the help of the spears, the Demigryphs would probably kill these Silver Helms and fall back. But you can see with this wipe, these Silver Helms are going to get annihilated, and we're going to be able to pull out. Now my opponent is immediately charging out with his Lyrian Reavers, trying to get a full flank. I'm not quite aware of it. You can see over here the princess kind of pushing around, but Boris here just dumpstering these troops. Swordmaster Ho doing rather poorly. Spearmen push through. My opponent's front line is in tatters. You can see the steam tank here took quite a bit of beating from the Phoenix Guard, from the Swordmasters. It's not really meant to fight those infantry, but it can hold out for a decent while just because it's big, or just because it's pretty small and doesn't have a big hitbox to get surrounded with. You can see another Burning Bolts coming down in the woods here, and we're going to see the rain of fire just rain out. You can see my opponent getting an awakening with the woods. Nicely done here on the Spearmen, but for Spearmen I don't really care too much. You can see the Burning Bolts just doing devastating damage to these troops. In the meantime, the princess is doing her very best, trying her little heart out to catch my bright wizard, but he's just going to keep running, and you can see the steam tank here getting into the archer line, using that bonus against infantry to run these poor guys over. You can see it's just plowing through. My opponent is using Earthblood here to try to heal them, but really it's not going to save him. The steam tank is in there. He's going to run these poor buggers over. Swordmaster is getting shot to death by handguns. My opponent does interdict the Reavers. Bit of a misplay here. I should have had the spearmen, or I should have had the captain intercept these guys. Fortunately, the Lyrian Reavers are not that good at killing, especially not in the woods, and so my opponent isn't getting the best value here. He just pulled back, probably cycle charge, and the spears are at this point coming into interdict. So at this point, you can see the balance of power decisively swinging in my favor. The archers getting routed. Demigryphs have swung around, having wiped out the silver helms. They swung around. Now they're on top of all these archers. You can see volley of high arrows coming in. They'll do a little bit of damage, but honestly, focusing on the Bright Wizard at this point is a mistake. I don't even know if that was on the Bright Wizard at Steam Tank, but honestly, focusing those units at this point is a mistake. You really need to kill the other units that are supporting, but it really doesn't matter. My opponent's front line is in tatters. You can see the Sigmar Suns still haven't broken. They're basically dead, but they're not breaking. And I actually pushed the Steam Tank for a rear charge here against the Swordmaster, so you can see it just piles through. I think it has a lot of mass, actually, for a unit, especially a unit of this size. And it does have that bonus versus infantry, so it's just piling through. My opponent gets a rear charge with the Illyrian Reavers, but they're getting torn apart by spears. Over here, these spearmen as well, being tied down by my spears. Now, High Elf spears will beat Empire spears. There's no debating it, and especially unshielded spears. But they can't do it effectively, they can't do it quickly, and so they're wasting a lot of time. You can see in the meantime, my opponent's army just falls apart. This whole backline compromised while these spears were wasting their time on these spears. So simply got oversaturated and defeated. Now, this comp, not something I would recommend against High Elves, especially now with Sister of Avalorn. The Steam Tank with no healing support is a bit of a risk. Obviously, if you pilot into melee like that, it can be decent. But even then, just closing the gap on Sisters of Avalorn would see your Steam Tank practically annihilated without a regrowth. Massive value of the Bright Wizard, so I think the Bright Wizard's really, honestly, a really good choice. I think it's one of those hidden picks. Never use the Flaming Sword of Ruin if you're fighting against Dragon Princes, but otherwise it's one of those hidden niche picks that's incredibly powerful against High Elves. Burning Bolts just annihilate their elite infantry if they ball up. The Flaming Sword of Ruin helps bypass physical resistances, and the I'm trying to think of what the final thing is called. And the Cascading Fire Cloak is a cheap way to grant yourself melee defense and extra AP damage. So honestly, the Fire Wizard or the Bright Wizard is just a really solid choice. Handguns here did, like, honestly, all the units here basically did what they were expected to do. The Steam Tank piled through, disrupted my opponent's formation, did good damage, was just all over the place. Surprisingly, I got value out of the Steam Tank. I was shocked. I think the Steam Tank's trash, and I was surprised that I got good value out of it. But I was happy nonetheless. The two Nagarythe Knights, great value, interdicting the backline, tearing through the archers, of course tearing up the cavalry as well, but that's not something to brag about. It's silver helms. Handguns, once again, did what they had to. The Sigmar Suns didn't get a single kill. That's what happens when you fight Swordmasters. But they tried their little hearts out, and these 5 units held their ground. That's all I needed of them. While the wizard nuked my opponent's troops down. So, good stuff. For my opponent, I do believe he was new. I think that would explain some of the maneuvers and decision making there. It's not necessarily bad a high elf comp, but honestly, if you're faced off with this sort of Empire comp, you're almost better off just advancing into it. Use your spears to soak up handgun fire. Crush through this sort of infantry line. Avoid the Sigmar Suns. Throw spears into the Sigmar Suns. Just break them. Get your heavy units on the flank. Get Swordmasters both pile through the spears. Break the spears. Crush into the handgunners. Use your cavalry to disrupt the backline. Get on top of the handguns. Shut them down. Push through. Unless I decided to cheese kite him essentially with the Steam Tank after killing his cav, honestly, there wasn't much I could have done. I think if my opponent had been much more aggressive, I think it does show the value of offense and forcing your opponent to react to you rather than vice versa. But nonetheless, good game to my opponent here. I do hope you guys, and obviously one other thing I would say is don't kit out a mage with all his magic and no buffs to win to magic if you can. That was, I think, another big mistake for my opponent. But nonetheless, good game. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it fun to watch the Steam Tank running roughshod over infantry. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticisms, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I will respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye for now.